Hello and welcome to a new episode of Academic Chat, your series dedicated to exploring academic topics and concepts related to the programs taught at Faculty of Governance, Economics, and Social Sciences. Artificial intelligence is rapidly transforming economies, societies, and power structures globally. While its impact appears to be extensive and significant, it also raises many questions on equity and access. How does AI shape the future of work, social justice, and financial systems? We will attempt to address these questions and more with our guest speaker, Professor Amir Abdulrida, professor at Faculty of Governance, Economics, and Social Sciences. But first, let's take a moment to hear from our students at UM6P Rabat on today's topic, the transformative impact of AI on economy and society. We'll be back afterwards.
Finance and AI are deeply connected because thanks to AI, we can analyze data, assess risks, and make decisions in other way. But for people who would like to invest themselves, but at the same time they cannot do it, there is a lot of companies and startups who gives the chance to do it, and it's the smartest way to invest themselves in this technology, because at the same time we can make the growth of the AI and participate to this transformation.
Tandis que pendant la révolution industrielle, l'humain a procuré aux machines ses muscles, au niveau de la révolution de l'IA, l'humain donne son cerveau. Ici, nous parlons plus de ce que nous pouvons créer, mais nous pouvons parler plutôt de contrôle, car si les industriels ont créé des empires, aujourd'hui, l'intelligence artificielle participe activement à créer du pouvoir. C'est par ailleurs l'une des raisons pour laquelle ce sujet est d'une grande importance de nos jours.
The benefits of AI could either deepen the global inequality if controlled by corporation or wealthy individuals, but at the same time it can help and promote inclusive growth and economic opportunities if it was used in developing countries. So I would define AI as a double-edged sword. We need to use it right.
Thank you to our students for their insightful comments that will allow us to open the discussion with our guest speaker for today's episode, Professor Amir Abdulrida. Professor, hello and thank you for being with us today.
Thanks for having me again. Nice to be here.
It's always a pleasure. Professor, artificial intelligence is increasingly described as a technological revolution, often compared to the industrial revolution for its potential, let's say, to reshape economies, societies, and power structures. From your perspective, what are the most important similarities and differences between these two transformative moments in history?
It's a very important question. As a matter of fact, there are very many similarities, and that's the ones I'm going to dwell upon a bit today, and naturally some differences that come to mind. The key similarities is that these two technologies, these two revolutions at the very least, are completely reshaping the way we work in many ways. So starting with the Industrial Revolution, which took place in Britain, the idea is that it started to take place in between the 1750s and the 1800s. So at this point, 250 years plus ago. The machines, or at least the idea of producing à la chaîne, chain production, in a way that fastened the process of production, took place and really affected the way we manufacture just about everything. Affected therefore the price, affected therefore relationships with workers. There were less artisans and more employees, workers in factories over the long term. And in the same way, we can see that this thing taking place with AI, AI being a productivity boom, you see. These artificial intelligence technologies come about and really help us work in a better, in a faster manner, and cut short the time that it takes to produce something, really. It's affected very many industries, and that's maybe one of the key differences compared to industrialization is that AI has affected really everything, whereas industrialization affected mostly the way we produce, we manufacture, and then everything else in society as a result of this. For instance, by bringing peasants into the cities to be manufacturers, to be workers, factory workers instead of being peasants anymore. So AI hasn't shifted this as much. If it has, to the contrary, it's brought people from the cities to the rural areas as digital nomads, for instance. But that's a little less AI than just the digital age. But to go back to the similarities, AI has it's really cut short the time we take to produce just about anything, and that's the main similarity with industrialization. I'm thinking about my own work as an academic. Thanks to AI, for instance, if one wants to use it to aid in coding, in programming, coding statistics and whatnot, or trying to clean up text as a role akin to a typewriter, I do estimate that it's saved me at least 75% of my time, or at the very least a third of my time has been saved up thanks to AI. And the differences that one of the key differences that ought to be picked up on, I suspect, is also the fact that AI took place much more as an open technology than industrialization. And that's something that may not be talked about enough. AI, just like a lot of computer science, is developed with scholars, scientists around the world sharing their codes, sharing their approaches, something that has been very prevalent amongst the godfathers of AI, those figureheads of academia that have developed the logic behind artificial intelligence today, the one that has worked at least, the neural networks, the machine learning approach and all that stuff, sharing their code, sharing the results to the whole world, and up to today really trying to develop open access model. Still, some more private approaches with the commercial large language models today, but still. Industrialization, to the contrary, happened in a very, I should say, in an attempted hidden manner. So for instance, for a very long time, exporting the machines that were at the heart of the Industrial Revolution of Britain was, to a certain extent, very forbidden. There was an embargo on them, to the extent that those folks that brought them to continental Europe were almost deemed as traitors. This is not so much the same with AI. There is something of an embargo on the technology that's behind it, a very specific aspect of the technology, the graphics cards, with NVIDIA, for instance, being at the center of these debates. Especially with the exports of NVIDIA cards to China. But the codes itself are still, for the most part, attempted to be, let's say, open access. Granted that, obviously you can have a graphics card that could run the AI properly.
Yes. A key question is whether the benefits of AI will be concentrated among wealthy individuals, corporations, and advanced economies, or if AI holds the potential to empower, I would say, marginalized communities and developing countries.
That's a good question, one that we approach a lot in social sciences today. As a matter of fact, the way AI is developing in relation to capital, to let's say, to the amalgamation of wealth and power in many ways, does resemble a bit the Industrial Revolution, in the sense that today, yes, there are figureheads that really benefit the most from AI models and from automation. The heads of the big companies that are unleashing it upon the world. And the same way in which it took place in Industrial Revolution in many ways. And because the approaches are so novel, the legal frameworks, let's say, also often the labor struggles haven't caught up to them and managed to really re-engage with the way in which things should be shaped. But the reality of it is that the nature of this revolution, so to say, is happening so much faster than this revolution, and the debates are going so much faster than they did at the time, because we're in a digital age naturally, and because people also are more educated and so on, and more connected, once again because of the digital age. These debates go much faster. So one of the main issues during the 1800s was the social struggles that came up to kind of rearrange the way wealth was amalgamated, was concentrated around the leaders of the industrial revolutions, the patrons, the bosses, and all that stuff. And unfortunately led to a lot of social struggles, lots of strife, the rise of ideologies like communism that try to bring the capital from the few to the many. But the reality is that today we seem to be avoiding a lot of that social struggle. We seem to be succeeding, I would argue, in avoiding a lot of these conflicts, in the sense that states are much more developed, workers have much more rights to start with, and therefore there's much more engagement with this and that. For instance, a lot of these startups that develop around AI do share a lot of their capital, do share a lot of their valuation with their employees, right? Like this is why, for instance, NVIDIA, which was not a startup, mind you, but NVIDIA, when it really boomed in 2024, made it such that most of its employees became millionaires overnight, for the simple matter that they had some shares of NVIDIA in their compensation scheme, something that was not necessarily existent during the Industrial Revolution, where capital was much more concentrated. And so the real challenge, naturally, is, are we going to be able to avoid that social strife? The gloomy narrative is AI will benefit the creators of the algorithms that will create these machines, these algorithms, these whatnot that can work instead of humans working, and people not working won't be compensated. Therefore, you'll have a mass of folks who are not working who can't get a wage, and a mass of folks who are owners of these algorithms and machines and who have all the capital. That's, I would argue, very unlikely, simply because of the fact that we live in the same world. I mean, only in a dystopia would a human being prefer to have like an army of machines killing off human beings that are there and cannot work, just to be able to have all the capital and live on their side. It just doesn't work that way, by the fact that we're so interconnected. And that's what we're seeing unfold at the instant, really. A lot of the developed world is experimenting, for instance, with concepts like basic universal income, which would make it such that, well, everybody has a basic universal income, even if they're not working. And that doesn't mean that folks will not work, will not try to do things, that they're just going to sit at home and do nothing, you see? So we are in a fundamentally different context today in the 2000s, really, the 2020s, in relation to the kind of states we have, to the kind of labor relations we have, to what we're expecting also, that AI, if treated properly, even though we're still failing at some of the repartition of wealth around the world, can still benefit the many, you see? And because it's just expanding today, we may not see it. But over the long term, as people are trained, retrained, or as new generations grow into it, then this is when we will see this gain in productivity, but especially this gain in wealth. So for instance, with the Industrial Revolution, it took all the way to World War I and World War II until we could dream of something like the 30 Glorious, les 30 Glorieuses, these 30 years of prosperity, really, in Western Europe and in many parts of the world, where the benefits of industrialization were brought to the masses, you see, and folks had better labor relations, better wages, much more disposable income, access to vacations and whatnot. But it took a century and a half, really, of struggle, war, civil strife, exactly. We may avoid this, and hopefully we will avoid this today, simply because of, we're a bit more advanced. I mean, that's the dream, at least, that we're not going to go into some kind of a third world war. I mean, weapons are so much more advanced that any kind of war would simply be annihilation, you see? And so despite all of the negative sides of AI that we've seen, we may enter into something akin to a glorious age much faster. At least that's the way I see it.
All right, well, this brings us to the third and last question, Professor. How do you see the intersection of AI and finance for individuals who cannot directly produce AI technologies? Is investment in AI-driven companies or startups a viable way to participate in and benefit from this transformation?
That's a very good question. I mean, one of the things that also is in some ways similar but also very different from the industrial age is that today access to company shares, access to the stock market, access to startups is much wider than it used to be. So assuming someone that has no, let's say, technical capacity in AI or cannot even work in a startup on AI or interact with them, there's always the capacity of investing in them. And that's what has been touted as the main capacity for people around the world to benefit from the capital boom of AI, really. Mm-hmm. So, for instance, as I've mentioned, employees of NVIDIA a year and a half ago-ish became overnight millionaires because of the valuation that came with NVIDIA shares. And today this is the same reality, really. Stock markets in Africa are expanding. There's the Bourse Régionale de Valeurs Mobilières in Côte d'Ivoire. There's the Bourse de Casablanca in Morocco that are moving a lot. I mean, technological startups are not properly brought to them. Technological companies are not yet well listed, but this is something that people should be, let's say, in touch with. They should try to keep up with, because at some point, these companies will start to be listed as our stock markets are really moving and really innovating. And people should really look to invest in them. And there are two types of companies you can invest in. The ones that are powering the AI revolution, the ones like the NVIDIAs and whatnot, which are not necessarily present on the continent, but still things that are similar. For instance, the internet providers in Morocco, who will be the ones providing internet to the companies that work with these things, but also energy companies. Like one of the main situations we've got in with AI now is how do you power the AI boom, which is so energy intensive? And everything energy related is going to be very key in the world of tomorrow. And in Morocco, we do produce, well, energy. And a lot of African countries produce a lot of energy. Oil, gas, we have the phosphate here. It's a bit different, but still. And be aware of when these companies are going to be listed. There's also venture capital, naturally, going to these companies, going to these startups, to these groups of people working on things and investing in them. Investing sums of money, obviously it comes with a certain type of risk, but it comes with also a very higher potential for reward. Today, a lot of the youth in our part of the world are becoming more and more educated. Moroccan engineers are rather known around the world. Engineers from Kenya, from Rwanda, and so on are well respected. Nigeria, and so it shouldn't be too hard to identify folks in our networks who, in some way, shape, or form, are potentially invested in some type of AI job or AI company and whatnot, and trying to, see where money can be put to move things around.
Well, we've come to the end of today's episode. Thank you, Professor Abdulreda, for your contribution and your insightful comments on today's topic, the transformative impact of artificial intelligence on economy and society. And we hope to have you with us again very soon.
Thank you so much for having me. If I may end on one note,
of course.
As has been said, if you can build it, invest in it or buy it at least, you see, and that's really the idea of AI today. Invest in it.
We'll definitely keep that in mind. Thank you again, Professor.
Thank you.
To our audience, thank you for joining us. If you want to learn more about our activities and upcoming events, please visit our website, www.fgses-um6p.ma. We shall meet again very soon. Until then, stay connected and keep seeking knowledge.